have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond, worry no more. Because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnel who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe. We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48 Karaba Avenue and Brusubi Highway, or you can call us on 7657 479 980 8483 340 9400 or 635 9906.
Jamano Money Transfer Bureau de Change, your go-to option when it comes to money transfer. With Jamano, you can send money from anywhere in the world to your family and loved ones in the Gambia and be sure the funds will be delivered to them within the shortest time possible. For your convenience, funds sent through Jamano Money Transfer can be picked from all the banks and multiple other financial institutions, including Ajib Bank, Trust Bank, GT Bank, Mega Bank, Basic Bank, Reliance Financial Services, and Approved Services. Visit our head office at Brusubi opposite AfricMed next to Trust Bank Limited, or email us at info@jamanomt.com. You can as well call us on 310-3050 or 310-3051, or yet still 733-0688. Our opening hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. Jamano Money Transfer, your most trusted money transfer service where customer satisfaction is paramount. When you think of a simple, fast, and reliable money transfer, think Jamano Money Transfer.
Agada. Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyenje.
Okay. Korsan. Nsila ID soto.
Sorry. Agada.
Bijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka.
Mbare.
Mo ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom Yonna Forest de Bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birin koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong labe ko.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jang.
Ha?
Gambia kono ani Gambia bantala bankol. Nko kono kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nim kodi maraw. Jannam number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi ma ni domorol ni fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ngam fa kendol sotale je.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e binaji.
Yalo bu kanyi la ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Baraka.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yonna Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yonna Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yonna Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yonna Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yonna Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151 or visit Yonna head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yonna branch located countrywide near you.
Welcome to the brunch on Kerfatu Live. I am Lamin Cham, and this is your weekly look at current affairs, and that we mean major stories that have occupied the national newsstands over the last 7 days. And of course, we also bring in personalities that make news. Today, I'm privileged again to be in the company of Professor Dr. Galleh Jallow, journalist, writer, very well known in the recent past for being the man who put up the Gambia's much reputed Truth Commission, the TRRC. The executive director, that is, the executive secretary, well, everything's now director, so executive secretary of the Truth Commission, Galleh Jallow, who after that went ahead to pursue his other passion, that is academia. He spent a year in America on a fellowship. We'll talk about that. And much recently, he was named among 3 others from across the continent, him representing West Africa in a group that the African Union set up, calling it the Reference Group for Transitional Justice in Africa. The African Union set that up. We'll talk about all that. Plus, what is his perspective on major developments in the political or other fronts in the Gambia? With Dr. Galleh Jallow, of course, you can never exhaust talking about issues both in the international and national fronts. Doctor, welcome to the brunch.
Thank you, Chair.
Good. He's from Badibu Makiu, so there'll be a lot of banter here between him and me. He comes from Parafenye. Of course, those who know him very well, we remember he also worked the West Africa Examinations Council, and then the Daily Observer, and of course he founded, co-founded, if you like, the much loved independent newspaper of the 1990s. So many people will remember that paper, The Independent, that Jammeh dreaded so much that he had to set it on fire, but that didn't kill it. Galleh and others had to flee for their life. But he came back, like I said, in just after the dictator was overthrown. Well, was it overthrown? Yes, by the people when he was voted out in 2016. So Baba had a lot of stories actually. So it's always exciting to have you in the studio. Welcome once again.
Thank you, Chair.
Good. Now, where have you been since you left the TRRC? Let's begin with that.
Well, thanks a lot for that kind introduction. I've been around after the TRRC. I was here for some time, and then I was invited by Harvard University Law School, to serve as the inaugural Roger Fisher Fellow in Negotiation and Conflict Resolution. So in August of 2023, I went over to Harvard, and I spent a year there doing some research, studying and teaching on negotiation and conflict resolution. The fellowship ended in July of this year, and I came back to the Gambia. And so I'm in the Gambia right now. Yeah.
Much recently too, you were named among others in Africa for this new group called Reference Group that the African Union set up. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, the African Union set up the what they call the Continental Reference Group on Transitional Justice in Africa, and essentially it's an advisory board of transitional justice experts around the continent. So you have 3 experts from each of the 5 regions. There are 15 members. So you know the main goal of that group is to advise the African Union on issues of transitional justice, on how they might, be able to properly implement the transitional justice, the African Union transitional justice policy. They have a transitional justice policy that they published in 2019. And so how can countries implement that? And if there are interventions like conflict situations or interventions where a country needs assistance in setting up a truth commission or other transitional justice mechanisms on youth and gender, then they would call upon members of this AU reference group on transitional justice to assist in as technical support to some of these countries. But in general, it's just an advisory group. It's not a full-time job. Although when the announcement was made, I had some kiankers and some.
And you got an international job.
Yeah, they thought I got an international job, and some kiankers were congratulating, but also saying, "Oh, what a waste of money," and a lot of
really?
other things. Yes,
But
so
anyway, it's a prestigious job, and I'm sure it was you were selected from what you must have done at the Gambia Truth Commission, which we understand has been referenced all over the world.
Yes, absolutely. That's the only transitional justice experience I have. So the TRRC is well regarded around the world. My invitation to Harvard was a result of my work at the TRRC, and my invitation to this reference group as well is a result of the work. We did a good job.
Absolutely.
Remember before the commission started, you interviewed me.
Yes, I did.
And Fat Toure and Nyang Jai also interviewed me.
Yeah, exactly.
And we used to say that failure is not an option, and we made so of that.
You made it tremendous.
Because we put up, a functional institution, and we thought outside the box. We brought in new ideas, and we created a truth commission that is now considered the Gambian model.
Absolutely, yes. Everywhere now is referenced as the Gambian model.
The Gambian model, and so I have had invitations to go to South Sudan, a couple of times, Ethiopia a couple of times, Togo. Kenya, to just discuss what we did here and to share ideas. So essentially that's it. It was the work that we did at the Truth Commission that led to all of these things happening.
Good. We will have a lot of time on the Truth Commission and the post-TRRC. Of course, we'll talk about that. Right. But a lot of people have always asked me, why don't you ask him back? They think that the independent, which you founded, should come back. Do you ever sit and reflect on coming back to full-fledged journalism, writing, as you used to do prolifically for the Observer and the Independent?
Not really. I don't think that might be an option. It might be an option. I'm not ruling out anything, but at this point, I think I would not want to go back to full-time journalism. I probably would want to concentrate more on transitional justice, conflict resolution, negotiation, and so on, because we have a lot of countries in Africa that are currently, having issues of peace and conflict, and there is no doubt that that number is going to rise because of the nature of the political regimes we have across the continent. So I'm not quite sure I would go back to resuscitate the independent. Even if I were to go back to journalism, I probably would start another newspaper rather than
independent.
Start the independent again.
What about academia? People also said, since he's a professor, he's been teaching in the United States, would you do something that can be in the academic field in the Gambia? For example, lecture in the university, one of the universities in the country?
Well, absolutely. I would happily do that. I'm looking out for opportunities. If I see an advertisement which I haven't seen any academic position.
But you weren't aware of, well, maybe they've been selected. Some university or professors appointed as vice chancellors and senior lecturers at the new University of Science called UCSF.
Well, I did not see any advertisement calling for expressions of interest or applications.
Okay.
And I think that's a proper thing to do. If a university or the University of the Gambia has open positions, I'm sure they need lecturers. I can lecture history, I can lecture in political science, I can lecture in conflict resolution, and even literature. So if they do have need for professors and lecturers, they should advertise it, so that people, interested people, I would be happy. I would be happy to apply.
Yeah, people always want you to see you, lecture in the university.
I'm sitting here. I'm not doing anything. I'm not employed right now.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go run after people for a job.
Maybe they think that you are connected internationally, like you said. Somebody just thought you had an international job, so maybe.
No, that's not the case. The thing is, if there are openings within the university system, or within anywhere, where they need people to come in and let them advertise the positions.
Absolutely.
So people can apply. I would happily apply. I love teaching.
Yeah.
That's my passion. I love teaching at the university level. Yeah. So if I see a position for which I am qualified, I definitely would apply for it. So I would be happy to go into academia, because the transitional justice work, it's not, it's likely perhaps that you get a job, international job elsewhere, or even in the Gambia, a full-time job. But mostly it's about, ad hoc needs. They just need your service, and then, you come in, render a service, you get paid and you go. But a full-time professional career job would be within the university system. But I haven't seen any opportunity for that yet.
So people who wanted to see Baba in the university, well, he's available.
Absolutely.
And sure, they will certainly do, because they will love you to be there and share your experience. Okay, let's talk about, what about politics? I think there was a time you were either quoted or said to have said you might be interested. At one point you contemplate about going to politics.
I wouldn't rule it out. I think that I have something to offer this country. If the opportunity presents itself for me to serve in a political capacity, I would be happy to do it. It's not that I want to be a politician per se, but I think that I have something to offer, that I can assist in solving some of the problems that the country is facing. So if there is an opportunity to serve in a political capacity, I would happily go in there and do it.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. As a professor, of course, you have been following everything in the Gambia, economic, political. We'll come to that. But let's go back to the TRRC. Yes, a fantastic job. Everybody in the world recognize the work of the TRRC, and thanks, of course, to you and your team for diligently working to put it up. When we were watching TRRC, it turned out to be a soap opera. Everybody in the offices, in the cars, anywhere, everybody tune in, television or radio, to follow the startling revelations that have shocked the nation, that they were happening in the Gambia. You compiled a very, very comprehensive report, and the government came out to accept almost everything except a few. But along the line, a lot of people we talked to, people who might not even be politicians, believe that the recommendations have not been fully or even impressively implemented. They feel disappointed. Do you feel the same way?
Well, I don't feel disappointed per se. I do feel that the government could have done better. They would have gone at a higher speed than they have so far. But I think also knowing the landscape of transitional justice and truth commissions around the world, because I've studied truth commissions in Latin America, Asia. I taught a course on truth commissions at Harvard. So I know that what the Gambia has done so far is much, much better than what a lot of countries have done.
Oh, even at this pace, when people are not happy with the pace?
Oh yes. Even at this pace, we have done a lot more better than a lot of the countries around the world that have had truth commissions. There are a few truth commissions that did extremely well, much better than here. But let me tell you, in a lot of countries, when the truth commission finishes their work and submits a report, the report is put aside. It's not even published for the public to know what the contents are. So here, we made sure that the process was open, as you just said, that everyone knew exactly what was happening. At the end of the day, the government accepted 263 out of 265 recommendations. So essentially, we submitted the report on November 23rd, November 23rd or 24th of 2021. A month later, as per the TRRC Act, the government published the report. That is to their credit. You know, it departs from established traditions in other countries. 6 months later, as per the TRRC Act, they came up with the white paper, accepting 263 out of 265 of the recommendations.
Wow.
And since then, they have passed legislation. They have passed the Special Mechanism Act, the Special Accountability Mechanism Act. They have passed the Anti-Torture Bill. They have passed the Reparations Fund Act, you know, into law.
Yeah, into law.
They have passed the Special Prosecutor's Office law. These are all part of the recommendations.
Oh, I see.
These are all recommendations that are coming from the TRRC report. So now that they have passed these laws, what that means is that they are now obligated to carry out, to implement the recommendations. Because it's already law. It's not just we promise to do it. They have made it into law. You know?
They have now taken practical actions.
Yes, they have taken practical actions. They have introduced civic education into the school.
Yes.
They are in the process of setting up a reparations fund, a reparations commission.
Yes.
Yes, they have done interviews, I know, for commissioners of that. I don't know how far they've gone with that.
Okay.
And they are in the process of setting up a reparations commission. So even though the progress is very slow,
it's very slow, yeah.
it is much, much better than the record. The Gambian record so far is much better than what has happened in the majority, maybe 95 or 96% of truth commissions that have happened around the world. So yes, they could have moved faster. Yes, there is a visible lack of political will to some extent. There is no doubt about that.
Yes.
You know, because it's not easy if you're thinking of your political interest to move as fast as you should.
To take difficult decisions that you think might harm you politically.
Right, but overall, the Gambia has done much better than a lot of other countries that have had truth commissions. That I can tell you.
Okay, a lot of progress, but then the areas that people find difficult or blame the government for not being very quick or willing to do is this thing of
reparations.
Well, reparations number one. Reparations definitely is long overdue. Many people are saying some victims are even dying. Reparations haven't done. The latest we heard about, the most recent, was the president. He received some UN visitors at State House and said, apart from prosecution, we also want to adequately compensate the victims. People said the government perhaps think that compensating the victims might be more important to them than prosecuting people who might be liable. How do you strike this balance? Because yes, people like Buddy Bunkers, whom I was tortured with, might like money. But some Kiangas and some people might say, well, yeah, we may like money, but then we don't want to see people who tortured us in the street going. So something has to be done about it. How do you balance this?
Well, we know that all of these things are important. Accountability is extremely important. People who committed crimes, and it's all in the TRRC recommendations. Every single perpetrator who committed crimes against humanity or crimes of torture and other crimes is recommended for prosecutions. At the same time, the victims are also recommended for reparations. So it's not that one is more important than the other. What we have here are sets of recommendations. In this case, two issues that are equally important. So, payment of recommendations, extremely important. Payment of reparations, extremely important. But also prosecutions, extremely important. So it's not that we say reparations are more important than prosecutions or prosecutions are more important. Both of them are equally important. And I think in both of them, I think there is some progress being made towards that. In terms of reparations, like I said, they are setting up. They passed the reparations fund.
The timeline they give is well past. They said by the first quarter of the year we would have been functional.
Extremely slow. Extremely slow. And they are setting up the reparations commission, as I understand what's going on. At the same time, they are working on setting up the special prosecutor's office here.
Special prosecution, yes.
Yes, they're setting up. They're trying to set up a hybrid court. But let me tell you that these issues, especially issues of prosecution, are very, very difficult and very, very slow. Very, very difficult and very, very slow. There is the case of this LRA rebel leader in Uganda. I forgot his name.
LRA, is it not?
Lord's Resistance Army.
Army, yes.
In northern Uganda.
I forgot he was a very famous man.
Something Pela.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know his name.
He had been at large all the, they arrested him.
No.
Yes,
No, not the Lord's Resistance Army leader.
Somebody in the army.
One of his lieutenants.
Okay.
The prosecution of that individual by a special court in Uganda took 13 years.
My goodness.
13 good years to prosecute one individual. In Sierra Leone, they had I think 9 indictments, and they were able to prosecute just a few of them.
Just a few of them.
So the prosecution.
They took a lot of resources as well.
Yes, millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. These things are very expensive and very, very slow. So I would say that the prosecutions
and the Rwandan genocide case also, I remember, which Honorable Jallow was head, I think, was it? Yeah, was he not head of the
ICTR
prosecution? Yes,
yeah.
That also took time.
It took time, so it takes time. Prosecutions take time, but the government could have moved faster, especially in prosecuting those perpetrators who are here.
And that, I was coming to that
in the regular courts.
Yes, I'm coming to that.
Why
do you think the government seems to be frustrated with the case of the junglers? Because the contradiction is that while many people think that the junglers were very honest, some of them, and yes, the commission's objective was to get them truthful and perhaps consider them for amnesty, but some of them didn't get that amnesty, but they are walking freely in the streets. That's what people found difficult to understand. The government came back to say, well, we have tried to lock up these people, but you can't keep them in detention forever without, trying the trial. So they seem to have forgotten about them until when maybe proper structures are in place to try them.
I think that would be it. I can't speak on behalf of the government, but I know that there is a lot of lack of capacity in the judiciary to prosecute these cases. And, that is not an excuse. I think that for me, if I were in the position of the government, I would have started some concrete steps towards prosecuting some of them.
But they have reached out. They have reached out to the people outside the world who are willing to help.
Yes, well, I wouldn't know what the nitty-gritties are because I'm not an insider in this.
I know they've been to ECOWAS,
but I know that they do talk about lack of capacity, and that's the reality: lack of capacity to prosecute some of these people. But at any rate, I think the process could have been faster than it is right now. So there is clearly a certain degree of reluctance to go there. It's a minefield.
Yes.
But eventually they would have to go there.
They would have to go.
And one thing about the Gambian situation is that Yaya Jammeh and those who committed the most human rights violations are accused, by the commission of committing crimes against humanity. Now that is significant. It is significant because even if the Gambia government is unable or unwilling to prosecute these people, any member of the international community can prosecute them.
As has been the case
under universal jurisdiction. Yes.
How to call it
Sonko,
now?
Bailo, now Michael Sankore in the US.
Yes.
Now that is because their crimes, what they have been accused of committing, fall under the umbrella of universal jurisdiction, of crimes against humanity, which falls under the umbrella of universal jurisdiction. So what that means is that any country that has an interest in prosecuting these people, whether it's Yaya Jammeh or all the
people who have been adversely accused or adversely mentioned.
Not only adversely mentioned, but accused of
this,
committing crimes against humanity.
They can get arrested anywhere.
They can get arrested and prosecuted anywhere. So it might take some time, but I think we'll see more and more prosecutions happening, either in the Gambia or outside.
So basically, these people who have been accused are walking freely here, largely because the government or the country doesn't have the capacity yet.
Well, that is what the government is saying, that they lack the capacity. But I think that the rule of law is the rule of law. Yeah. If somebody is to be prosecuted, you want to prosecute them, arrest them, charge them, prosecute them, or allow them to go about their business until you are ready to do that, until you are ready to arrest, charge, and prosecute them.
And this may be the policy that the government maybe think about these people.
Well, that's the rule of law. You know, you cannot jump the law, and just because somebody has appeared before a commission and is accused of committing a crime, you arrest them and lock them up. You have to be able to prosecute them.
Yeah, we're still on air.
Yeah.
What about the other area aspect of people who might have been adversely mentioned and continue to hold offices, or are being considered for appointments in the government?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that in my opinion, in my humble opinion, that is not correct. It's not right. You know, that's my opinion. It's my subjective opinion that, you know, if people are adversely mentioned, if they were enablers of the dictatorship, they should not be privileged servants of the current government, public servants. I think
they are still there.
People should be held accountable for their actions. You know, it's not like going after their blood, or, you know, crying for blood. But the reality is that some of the enablers of the dictatorship are in very important positions of authority right now. I think that is a slap in the face of the struggle that we all wage against the dictatorship. You know, that's just my humble opinion, and I think that a lot of people would share the view that some of these people really should have been, even if they are not grabbed and locked up, you know, should not have been given the type of privileges that they are enjoying under the new dispensation right now. That's just
well,
the reality is.
The other thing you mentioned, they try to put in place is civic education, you know, arising from recommendations of the TRRC. How effective do you think is this, plus the general knowledge gained from the Truth Commission, as by relating to the current practice? For example, the security forces. Did you see any reform in the way they go about things? For example, Jammeh's regime was known for arbitrary detention without trial, locking people at places that are not unidentified or not official detention centers. You know, the general approach of the security to be conducted.
Well, I think there is a lot more to be done in terms of security sector reform. You know, I don't know how that process, because that is one of the transitional justice processes that was initiated.
There's a lot of criticism against the government for not either. Well, government always said something had been done, but people still believe that there are still
a lot needs to be done. I think that you know, arresting journalists, for example, for writing news articles.
Well, we'll come to that later.
It's all part of the security situation, and so I think arresting human rights activists, people who call themselves human rights activists, for criticizing the government or the president, I think we should be beyond that as a country. You know, the civic education aspect of it at this point is too early to say how effective it is. But it is important that you have civic education as a subject that is studied in the schools. Now, what we need to look at is the content of the curriculum, the civic education curriculum. Is it relevant? Because we have had a national, what's it called, the civic education?
Yes, a national commission for civic education.
Yes, that commission, you know, it probably was effective, has been effective, but I haven't seen the type of things that they need to teach.
Yeah, the NCCE.
Yes, the type of things that they need to teach the people need to be, you know, clearly vetted. We need to know exactly what is the content of the curriculum and whether the content of the curriculum is actually transformative. It has to be transformative. Transitional justice is all about that. Civic education has to transform the mindset of the people. Is it taking them from point A to point B, from understanding X to understanding Y? You know, so that is still too early to tell. But I hope that the right people are put in place, you know, to carry out these civic education endeavors, and that, you know, the security sector reform goes to the issue of reforming the mindsets of the security forces, which is that, you know, if an order comes from above, you know, go arrest Lamin Cham, you go arrest Lamin Cham, regardless of whether Lamin Cham has committed a crime or not.
Or whether it is not information minister who wants Lamin Cham locked up.
Exactly. So yes, so we still have a lot of work to do. I think that if the government is really serious about doing the work, you know, they have resources in the country to be able to assist in doing the work without necessarily breaking the law or going overboard, you know, in any way.
Good. The TRRC recommended what is used to be they want to promote an institutionalization of the possible institutionalization of this joking relationship between communities. They believe, your commission believe that it can play a role in promoting reconciliation and preventing conflicts and promoting understanding. How have you seen that at work?
Well, it should be able to work. The joking relationship is important. I think in that regard, I think the TRRC recommended the formation of a National Peace Commission.
Yes.
And I understand that they have drafted a bill for the National Peace Commission, and they have sent it to the Interior Minister. The last time I heard was that the bill was at the Interior Ministry. I don't know why it needs to go to the Interior Ministry, but it is there. And I think, promoting reconciliation and friendly relations between communities is important. So, yes, Nyominka, Jola, or Jahanka, that kind of, culture is something that we should cherish. It's part of our culture. It's predated the nation-state system. It has been there all along. It has reduced a little bit, but not entirely. Still very important. So promoting that would be a good way of creating social cohesion.
Good. So much on the TRRC, and we'll come back to it. Let's go to politics, because that's another area you studied at the Fora Bay. It was in the late 80s or the early 90s. When were you in Sierra Leone? I think I met you in Sierra Leone, or was it Hazm? I first excused you.
Well, that's his opinion. But I think the thing to do is to have him consider whether running for a third term is the right thing to do for the country and for the government and for himself, for his legacy. Okay, the 1997 Constitution is still there. That was at the forefront of the struggle against the Jammeh dictatorship. He literally used the 1997 Constitution to oppress the people. That is still there. The draconian laws are still there. They have not been removed. A new Constitution was brought in. There was disagreement, and they ditched it. Now they came up with a new revised version that has caused a lot of dissatisfaction. And yes, the president can say that, okay, the 1997 Constitution doesn't have a term limit. But the reality is that the issue of the term limit was at the forefront of the struggle against the dictatorship. So what I would say is that, in his own private moment, in his office or in his house, anywhere, does he think that it is the right thing to do to run for a third term? Or is it the right thing to do to not run for a third term? I think my personal opinion is that the right thing to do is not to seek a third term. And to hand over to somebody else within his party and to leave. That would be the right thing to do as far as I'm concerned. I might be wrong because my opinion is subjective. But if you look at the overall picture, you realize that term limits are very important. They are part of the TRRC recommendations too.
That's what I want to remember.
Recommendations, yes. The TRRC recommends 2 terms of 10 years. Now, if he stays in power for 50 years, he still wouldn't be satisfied. We have seen African leaders. Paul Biya is a good example.
Paul Biya.
He's been in power for
Paul Biya, the cat, who has the life of a cat.
42 years now.
Yes. He's been 100 years now.
No, I mean
91 years of age.
In power.
In power, I know, since 1982.
So
I believe.
the same thing with Uganda, the same thing with Equatorial Guinea, the same thing with other countries.
Yeah.
So these countries eventually are going to explode. If a leader overstays in power, the country is a pressure cooker. It is going to explode at some point. That's just a natural reaction. To overstaying in power.
Yeah.
So Mr. Barrow can stay in power for
as long as he wishes.
As long as he wishes, but he should ask himself this question: is this the right thing to do? The legal thing to do, legality is legality, and there could be laws that are unjust, that are still considered laws. Unjust laws are used by dictatorships to oppress the people. So if the law is unjust, or in the absence of the law is unjust, the thing for him to do is to sit back and think, is this the right thing for me? Is this the right thing for the country? And then if he makes up his mind that it's the right thing to do, well, he can go ahead and do it. People will still believe it's not the right thing to do. I think the right thing to do for him at this point is to, facilitate the transfer of power to a candidate of his choice. His party would still, I think, due to the advantage of incumbency.
It's taboo to talk about.
Well, it's not taboo.
Experience of the journalist.
No, it's not
I've
taboo.
always said it's taboo to talk about.
No. I mean, it's not taboo.
To succeed. I mean, what the NPP dread much is to talk about success.
Well,
because that's what I've seen them
all
rounded up the journalists for speculate, allowing speculation.
I am saying.
Okay, let's stick with this.
Opinion.
Your opinion is
No. Don't tell me what my opinion is.
Okay, I'm trying to tell you. Your opinion is.
No.
You think the right thing for him to do, whatever his opinion is, you think the right thing is he should consider leaving after 2 terms.
After 2 terms, yes. And I think the way he can reach that conclusion would be to sit back
and reflect,
and reflect on whether that is the right thing to do. Because my opinion is the right thing to do.
Okay.
But does he reach that conclusion? That is the right thing to do?
From the recent pronouncements you had from him or his lieutenants, do you think there is any indication or likeliness that he is thinking of leaving?
No, I can't speculate on that.
I tell you what he recently said.
I cannot speculate.
Even if I tell you what he recently said.
You go ahead.
He said, he released that he is going to contest against his political godfather, Lawyer Dabo. And much recently he said he is the candidate of the NPP.
Yes.
Whereas some people say this is just bluff. I mean, they still don't believe him. But he has never missed a chance to emphasize, and his lieutenants too, never miss a chance to emphasize that he is their candidate. Even though some analysts who may have some deeper or more informed thoughts said, no, this is still the surface. He has not made up his mind. What do you think as a professor?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
I can only take him at his word. If he says he's the candidate.
He said that.
Yeah, well, I can.
But then, of course, there were.
Yeah, but you ask a question, you have to let me answer the question before you go on to another question.
Oh, well, that's it. That I've often been accused of
talking too much, like all Tiancos.
Go ahead. Okay, I admit.
But yeah, what I'm saying is he has said that he's going to run for a 3rd term to seek a re-election. And there is nothing in the law that says he cannot do that.
Yes.
The existing 1997 constitution.
Yes.
So I'm not going to speculate on what he might be behind the scenes. I'll take him at his word. He says he will run, so hopefully he's going to run. But again, going back to my point that, I think the right thing for him to do is not to run. And I would urge him to sit back and think of whether the right thing to do is to run or not. So if he still decides that the right thing to do is okay for him to run, then fine. As far as his words are concerned, I take him at his word. I'm not going to speculate that no, there is something else. No, I mean, he said it. So
okay, I'll bring up other conducts or other events that that led some analysts to say, well, he probably is thinking of leaving, despite what he just recently said, and that is, he brought in the former president's bill in the National Assembly, which an urgent note. Which means, how do they call it? There's a word for it. They want this treated as soon as possible. In that bill, we saw that a lot of good things have been envisaged for the former president. In fact, it was only 20. It's now 20. Well, eventually, is now only 20% shy of the salary between the sitting president and the former president is just 20% now difference. But motor cars, cooks, holiday, health facilities, bodyguards, all a house. All these have been envisaged in this bill, and the fact that he wants it passed urgently seem to have suggested that he probably is calculating to leave now. Because if somebody who is thinking of leaving in 2030 probably may not find the need, that urgent need, to have this passed. So this led people to say, well, this man might be thinking of leaving.
Well, people can speculate all they want. They can reason all they want.
But you don't have any reason to believe that from that action.
Well, all I know is that it's an ex-president's bill.
Yes.
And it could take effect 10 years, 20 years.
No, he wants it now.
No, I mean, but...
It's now into effect, actually.
No.
When he assented to it now.
Again,
it would be.
Again, like the Kenka you are, you need to be able to listen to my answers.
Okay.
Otherwise, the conversation.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
go ahead.
Smoothly.
You see, but go ahead.
No.
Okay, let's go ahead. Yes.
If you ask a question,
You know where you stop? I can remind you.
If
Go ahead.
you ask a question, listen to the answer.
Okay, go ahead.
You don't want to keep asking questions without answers.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
You know, so what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
all I know is that this is a bill that he wants passed into law. You know, maybe at some point he's thinking, when I retire, I'll enjoy this, as will other presidents who will come after him. Because however long it takes, at the end of the day, he would be an ex-president. But as far as speculations are concerned as to whether that is why he wants to leave now, that's why he passed this bill, I cannot go there. I can only take him at his word. He said he is going to be a candidate for 2026, and that's what I will believe until I see otherwise. You know, I don't need to speculate again about whether he's going to run or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, and the other thing is, let's talk to that. You talk about the recommendations about the laws. You know very well. You are very familiar with the trouble the journalists had with ex-president Jammeh. You had your newspaper burned. You've been forced into exile. I was illegally imprisoned and tortured. And in the end, I have to go. You told me when you had already gone, and I was detained and tortured. When you offered me the job to run the Independent, I said I was going to be busy. You told me when I was arrested, you sent me an email and said, you see, you couldn't escape the dictator anyway.
Exactly.
And I still remember that.
Precisely, yes.
When you see journalists now being arrested and being charged with false publication, what comes to your mind?
I think it's a very sad situation. I don't think that a post-Jammeh Gambia should arrest journalists for their opinions over publishing news items. I think that it is not a wise move by the president and by the government to prosecute journalists for publishing stories that they consider false or even defamatory. I think the best thing that the government could have done and the president in person could have done would be to issue a statement to say, you know, this is false, you know, and to chide the journalists to say, you know, you should be more responsible. You know, I think that is the best for the government, the image of the government and the image of the country. But to arrest journalists in this point and age, in this day and age, to say after the transitional justice process that we've gone through, after all the 22 years of dictatorship, and for an article that really, in my opinion, has no harm, you know, to say that, you know, somebody is thinking of somebody else as his successor, I do not think that would be a good reason to have journalists arrested. I think it's a sad indictment on the government of the Gambia and on the Gambian transitional justice process. I think if the president is well advised, you know, I think the best thing would be to drop all of these charges, release the journalists, and just issue a statement to say, you know, you guys should be more responsible. Indeed, responsible journalism. We were journalists.
Yeah, of course.
You know, responsible journalism.
I'm still one. You are still one.
Yes, once a journalist, always a journalist. So, if there is a story, before you publish a story for sensational reasons, you know, get all sides of the story first. We used to do all that, absolutely. And we still got arrested.
Well, he did that. To some extent, that's present in the article. They spoke to two senior members of the NPP, but their grievance is that even after speaking to them and them denying it, they said the newspaper shouldn't go ahead to publish it.
Well, you know, they might have a point, depending on the angle
taken
that the story takes.
Yes.
So, for example, the headline was the president is thinking of.
So the NPP believe this was a statement.
Listen. You know, let me explain this point. It's very important.
Very important.
So the headline was that the president is thinking of having Mohamed Jah as his successor.
Exit plan and having Mohamed Jah as successor.
Exactly. But they had already had that information.
Yes.
Now they tried to verify it.
Yeah.
And NPP bigwigs, as they call them,
spokesman and deputy
spokesman denied it.
Yes.
So the headline should have been NPP denies.
As we did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, so that should have been the news.
Yes. That is why I say the headline should have been the grievance and not entirely that anybody dare to talk about it.
No. They can talk about it. No one can prevent anyone from talking about anything in this country, so long as you are talking within the bounds of the law.
Yes.
No one should be given an impression that the government can shut down people. They can't. They did not give the Gambia democracy. Democracy gave, them their positions.
Exactly.
So that should be clear. But then journalists also have to be careful on how they portray the news.
Exactly.
So you have a piece of information. They are mere rumors. So you go and ask authorities, NPP, senior NPP officials, and they deny.
Yeah.
So the headline, if they wanted to publish it, the headline should have been the denial,
Exactly.
as opposed to the original,
Yeah.
rumors that you had.
Yeah.
I think if I were a journalist now,
and that's what we did. That's what we did. Even
Exactly.
in the Standard, we came with that. The NPP denies.
Exactly.
After we spoke to CD, the NPP
Exactly.
denies.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the NPP's contention is that. Well, that's what that is the most I agreed with them. That, I mean, the headlines seem to have made a statement, But
Yes,
when you read through, you saw a denial inside.
But
So
still,
like
it is not grounds enough.
It is not
Arrest-
ground enough for
arrest
false
and
information.
prosecute them.
That's what we agree.
No,
but then,
it's not.
Okay, look at another argument. The president's lawsuit said, if they retract, well, he said he will go to court. Well, he actually went to court now. If they don't do a retraction, and they want the retraction for them to see themselves and agree, and they put up the retraction they want. That's happened. But even within the days of, that's later been served, and the police called them and charged them.
I know. I've been following the developments.
Yeah.
I think that the arrest and charging and this whole noise about the story is really unnecessary. It's an indictment on the record of the government so far in terms of freedom of speech and expression, because you can do what you want, but the world and history will record what you did, whether you like it or not. So it is good to take very good care of what you do as a government. If you want to arrest people, arrest them on grounds that would be considered legitimate by any observer. But if you arrest journalists on a story like that, it's not necessary. It's a throwback. What harm would that story cause? It would have been enough for them to issue a denial and insist that the denial be published on the front page. And to, just...
They said the refusal of the journalists to apologize is what brought in, the President Barrow's lawsuit. But they said President Barrow's lawsuit and the police action are not connected. The police saw a crime being committed, or suspected a crime has been committed.
What crime?
I argue that,
what crime?
the crime of false publication.
No, false publication. That was one of the toolboxes of the dictatorship. Yes,
and you know what happened?
A government that prides itself in being democratic should not fall back to draconian laws.
We went to State House, the Newspaper Publishers Association. We met the president. We expressed concern that this law, false publication, is still in the Constitution. It should be removed. There was a committee which made a recommendation. Minister of Information then was Ibrahim Asila. He promised that these recommendations will be taken and made into a legislature so that it will go to Parliament and these laws will be abolished. We haven't had anything from that. No action on that has happened. But the president told us himself that, look, these laws will be removed. But even whereas they are there, his government has no intention of using them. Samsar of Foraya told him, no, Mr. President, we don't want to rely on your goodwill or the goodwill of your government, because your government's goodwill can change. You yourself, your personal goodwill can change. So if the law is there, somebody else can come and use it. Even before we go into something else, the president himself is using the law, more or less to say. So we, the newspaper publishers association and the journalists in general, felt disappointed that government's own commitment not to use these laws is now in the question.
Well, you see, if a newspaper published a really criminal article, an article that's likely to cause insecurity in the country or public
they said anything,
public disorder, or something that everyone who reads it will say, oh, this is dangerous. Then they might even have recourse to go to the courts. But a harmless piece of information rumors, really.
Well, that's not what the NPP believe. The NPP
No,
believe
no,
that
but it's not about
presidential
it's
succession
not-
of presidency
it's not
is
that-
detrimental to the security.
It's not what the president or the MPP believes. It is what the reality is, what the right thing is. You know, what they believe is subjective, just like what you and I believe is subjective. You know, but the reality is that the story is harmless. That is the reality. You can deny it all you want. You can go after people and beat them up because you can. But the story is harmless, literally harmless. And I wouldn't have taken the action that they took. You know, I would have, in the interest of my own image as a government of the Gambia, as a president of the Gambia, issued a statement refuting them, chiding the journalists, you know, telling them, you know, stop being irresponsible. That would have hurt the voice more
Exactly.
than the political, the witch hunting, if you
witch
like.
hunt, yeah.
You know, because if you do this, then you are raising their profile
And of course, damaging the reputation of the
of the
state.
government.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's right.
And
And
the country.
that's our measure. We believe that President Barrow really doesn't deserve this.
No.
And what makes it serious is his name. You know, if it was some minister or some NPP bigwig somewhere, I mean, you could have said, wow, well, but the name of the president is directly connected with this law that everybody discredited. That's why we said, I told the NPP bigwigs, the president's name does not deserve to be
Yeah,
to be, to be
it
stained
should be,
in
yeah,
a matter like
absolutely.
this one.
I agree.
So now that the president has now, executed his threat, he came up with a defamation law, a defamation suit, and the police have already charged this. How do you think is the way forward?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think, in my opinion, again, I think that both the police and the president should drop the case.
And what should the journalists do?
And, well, that, I can't talk about the journalists, what the journalists should do. They should do what they should do in a responsible manner. Whatever they think is fitting to do.
Which one should come
they
first?
should do it.
Because that's where the problem is. Which one? I've been privy to some negotiations. The government officials, NPP officials, want the retraction first before the charges of the police are dropped. I told them then the two are linked. Then they said no, they are not linked. I said then, why are you telling us that the charge can be dropped after the retraction?
No, now
what should come first?
The bigger person here should be the government. They should drop the charges and allow the journalists to go. The journalists, whether they issue a retraction or not, that's immaterial to the case. What that would do is it would lift the reputation of the government.
Of the government.
Yes, it would lift the
Glorify
reputation
them.
of the president.
Yeah.
You know, or they've dropped the charges. They realize that, you know, this is a wrong move.
Exactly.
Because one problem we have in African politics is that people, you know, make mistakes and they are not capable of stepping back and admitting that this is a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, if you make mistakes,
They think that they will lose their face.
No. There is no losing face.
Yeah,
I think that the best thing for the government, President Barrow himself personally, to do would be to drop these charges and allow the journalists to go about their work. You know, and then they can even issue a statement again to say why they've done that.
Exactly.
And to chide the journalists, to say you have to be responsible in your reporting.
Yeah.
That's true.
You see, there's one statement, like I said, what President Barrow could have done from the beginning. It is like, look, this statement is false. If Muhammad Jah wants to become a presidential candidate, he first have to be an NPP member, and he must be selected by the NPP party machinery. Until then, this story is false. That stands the test of time.
Exactly. However refutal, the way they wanted to refute the story, that would have been the best thing to do. Refute the story and chide the journalists. Tell them that, you know, what you did is wrong. Absolutely. You know, I wouldn't have published the story the way they published it.
I agree. I told this to the Minister of Information that, okay, I agree that the headline and perhaps the content, you know, might be a little bit distinct, like you said. We came with the denial. We spoke to CDC of the NPP, and our headline, exactly what you said, was NPP denies. Because apparently, if you had 2 or 3 denials, obviously you are right. That should give rise to the fact that, as we used to do at the Observer, we call it a question mark.
You clear the air.
Question mark?
Yes, you clear the air. You want to clear the air.
You clear the air. In fact, that will compel the NPP to come out and say, look, you know, these people are writing speculations and stuff like that.
Exactly. And that would diminish the reputation of the paper.
Yeah, that's right. The paper, yes. Because what the journalists hate most is to be challenged, to challenge his or her credibility.
Exactly.
That's it. That would have been enough.
Exactly.
We told that we made this impression to the Minister of Information, we made this impression to Sidinja, the Deputy Spokesman of the NPP. Right on this very table, we told them this is going to damage the reputation of the President.
Exactly.
It's a storm in a teacup.
Unfortunately.
You are now making it a big issue.
Exactly.
And,
It's
you
not
know,
necessary.
it goes with reputational damage for the government.
It's not necessary,
So,
honestly. It's
but
not
then, of
necessary.
course, they said what should come first. The journalist should retract, and then the charges be dropped. I said, well, what those the charges should be dropped from the goodwill of the government, realizing that, look, this is a commitment we made not to charge people with this. Just they dropped that and said, well, now the matter is dropped, we have not dropped it, and we move on.
Exactly. I think that's what they should do. It's if you make a mistake, just admit that you made a mistake. No one is perfect. No one is perfect. The government is not perfect. I think it was a mistake on the part of the government to prosecute, to charge these journalists, to arrest them in the first place for a story that is completely harmless. You know, that just says that the president is thinking of, having somebody to succeed them. Just say it's a lie. It's not true.
It's not true.
You know, it's a
Okay,
lie.
let's move on, because that's and other aspects are all, piling up what some analysts have already said, pressure towards the 2026 elections. You are a political scientist. How do you see the political scene going on to the elections? I mentioned the UDP. I mentioned only for the NPP. Let's go into the UDP. You must have heard about the internal row. It was, though Mr. Dabo tried very much to play it down, but you must have the intense row as to whether the leadership should now give way to younger ones.
Well, I think that the UDP official position has been clear. I will go by what I understand Mr. Dabo to have said and other, people on his side, to say that, there is a procedure for a change of leadership. So we wait for that period when the issue of choosing a flag bearer comes up, and then, discuss the issue at that point. There is no harm, of course, as far as I'm concerned. Speculations and suggesting that Mr. Dabo should retire now and so on and so forth. That is their internal politics, and I'm not going to go into that. But I think that they have a procedure for a change of party leadership, and I think they should follow that procedure going forward. Yeah.
Do you see the formation of a third force? We got some people who recently had a press conference suggesting that what is needed in Gambian politics is a third force, that the NPP and the UDP are 6 and 9. And you know what is meant by 6 and 9.
Well, I wouldn't call them that.
Well, that's what this new so-called third force refer to them.
Well, yeah, they refer to them anyhow. I'm not going to refer to them as them. They do have their similarities and differences, and whether a third force is going to come up, that's still up in the air. Everyone who is a Gambian who has the means has a right to create another political party, or to run as an independent candidate, or to support one of the existing political parties. So yes, you cannot rule out the emergence of a third force going to 2026. It is very possible that out of the blue, one of the smaller parties can rise, or another new party can come up that would pose a serious challenge to the political hegemony of these two parties. It's possible, it might not happen. It could happen, it might not happen.
But you still believe that for the immediate or the foreseeable future, these two parties are the key players?
Well, I'm not going to speculate as to the foreseeable future. As of now, they are very important players. There are of course other important players who might not be as visible as them, but they're definitely the two biggest parties in the country right now.
Let's talk about the electoral process. There have been, in the aftermath of the 2021 elections, there was an attempt to go to court by the UDP, complaining that there might have been fraud, and there might be. But then, of course, there was a consensus, almost a consensus, that there is something wrong with our voter. Well, register or nature in terms of turnout. In the presidential election, we almost had 90-something. In the subsequent elections, it dropped so drastically that people think that this is not just natural voter fatigue. Something must be responsible. What have been your observation?
I cannot speculate on these issues. If there is data that I can cite to talk about them, I'll cite the data. Right now, we all know what you are saying is what's out there in the public, and so I'm not going to speculate on whether there was fraud or whether the election was stolen or whether, what happened. Was it voter fatigue? It could have been voter fatigue, but I don't know. I don't know.
You did not. You didn't make any analysis of the vast difference between the turnout among of the presidential and the
national assembly.
Generally,
elections.
people believe it is the level of interest, but people said, well, that could be order.
Well, yeah, they probably are right or wrong. I don't want to speculate on that.
What do you make of the census? As recent as 3 weeks ago, the Gambia Bureau of Statistics keepers who conducted this survey said our population is 2.4 million. Well, they said this is provisional, but for all I know, it can be more than that. People are saying that sounds a little lower than they expected. Gambians have been calling it. We've been talking in the street. We say, anytime we refer to Gambia's population, we say, we just do about 3 million or 2.7. But they're telling us that we are 2.4 million. People believe we are more than that.
Well, again, it's not useful to speculate on these things. There is data. How did they conduct the census? Did they do it well? Did they do it poorly? Because that's a possibility too. So I don't want to speculate. I can only go on the numbers that they bring forward.
I can tell you some other details. They believe, for example, there are only 42,000 Senegalese in the country.
Well, that's what they found. That might not be the real number. That's what they found. Because in this,
even in your Farafenni alone, because you Farafenni, which is half Senegalese, people find it difficult to believe that only 42,000 Senegalese are in this country.
In the country, the number might be higher than that. But again, it would depend.
Even in your Farafenni alone,
a census would depend on the figures that you get from the field.
But if the process
depends on the number of people that you are able to reach.
But if the process is, for example, there have been problems with the technology they introduced this time around. It was new, people didn't have adequate training on it, and critical analysts said, this might be the problem.
It may well be. It may well be a problem.
You have no reason to dispute the figures.
Well, I might have reason to dispute the figures. It's not about me disputing or not disputing the figures. What I'm saying is that these are the figures that they have. And that's what they are saying, that the population is 2.4 million. It could be more than that. It could be less than that. I don't know. So, but they conducted a census. So, if I were to have an opinion on this, I would need to do my personal investigation and find out exactly what happened. And that would take a long time. You have to be able to say, this is what went wrong or this is what went right. So you reach a conclusion that based on your findings of the investigation that you conducted, these figures are wrong or they are right. But in the absence of that, it's useless for me to sit here and speculate that this is wrong or this is right.
Let's move a little bit to the region. The Senegalese people went through, an election, and we have seen that Ousmane Sonko and his PASTEF group, achieved a landslide, avoiding even the second round in the Senegalese election. But most importantly, many people said this is the beginning of a new movement in Africa. People are now everywhere agitating for youth and young people taking up leadership. They believe that the Senegalese experience may just spread around the region. Some people said it may even have a bearing on the Gambia. Political scientists, do you think this will have any effect on Gambian politics? Well, the rise and power of the PASTEF movement, which were hanging on youth enthusiasm and youth propaganda or whatever youth.
Well, it may well have an effect, but the reality is that every situation has its own specific context. So situations arise out of context. So if the Senegalese context is identical to the Gambian context, one can say 100% that it would happen here. But the Senegalese context is not identical to the Gambian context.
What is the difference?
Huh?
What is the difference?
No, Senegal is Senegal, Gambia is Gambia.
But that's simple. That's too cheap. We know that they are different. But
yeah, the context is different.
Yeah, but that's too cheap. Go into details. So
The
why are you
context
saying
is
that
different? In terms of, for example, the pastef movement, more youths are engaged in political activism in Senegal than in Gambia. That is one key difference. More youths are interested or invested in political activism in Senegal and in Gambia. You know, the political culture levels are different. The political cultures are different.
Cultures or education?
Political culture. By political culture, I mean, you know, political attitudes. You know, the attitude of the young people to the government, the issues, the relationship, the links they make between what their problems are and the nature of the government. That is part of the political culture. In Senegal, people link more of their problems to government performance than they do in the Gambia. In the Gambia, a lot of problems, people have problems, but they don't link their problems with government or state performance. So those are all aspects of the culture, the context that would feed into what actually happens at the active political level. So the contexts are different. So it might well happen here, it might not. But what is so is that you have two different scenarios, two different political contexts, two different political backgrounds in these two countries. And so what happens in each country would be determined by the nature of the context. Especially, you know, the activism, the active engagement of young people in politics. Yeah, the demographics, the number of young people you have also. You
are following political developments there, I'm sure. You know they are going to elections in November the 17th National Assembly. First of all, knowing Senegalese politics and following it, you think the president is gambled by calling for snap legislative elections? He's hoping to have a majority, so he said without majority he cannot push his agenda, etc. But people have started beginning to think he might have miscalculated because he may not end up getting a majority.
He might well have. You know, it's a gamble. So if his plan, because what happens is you have a plan, you try to implement the plan. Is it a well thought out plan? I don't know. Are they over optimistic about their capacity to capture a majority of seats in the parliament? I don't know. But if his plan goes through, then he's going to get it. If not, he would have to deal with the consequences. That's just the reality.
You must have had President Macky Sall's recent announcement. He's even relinquished an international role to concentrate back into politics. And the talk in Dakar now is he contemplating coming back? Many people think that may have security considerations or security threats. What do you make of that?
Well, yeah, I did follow his pronouncement, his resignation from that body in France, and his announcement that he would want to get engaged in Senegalese politics now. Well, whether that would cause a security issue or not would depend on what the Senegalese authorities have on him. Do they have enough evidence to have him arrested when he arrives, or do they have enough evidence to suggest that he, was involved in acts of corruption and human rights violations for which he could be indicted? I don't know. So it would all depend on what they have on him and what the body of evidence is and how the government of Senegal reacts. So he may well fly into Dakar and no one would say anything to him, and then he can continue, living in Dakar. That's another scenario that is not outside the realm of possibility.
Do you believe he handled the pre-2024 elections very well? He was at the center of I will run. He didn't want people to know that he was running or not running. He kept everybody in suspense until in July 2023 when he said, finally, I'm not going to run. Then there became dynamics changed because the opposition were united in fighting and no third term for him. When he suddenly said, I won't run, the opposition splits. He anointed a successor who didn't make it in Mr. Ba. You think he malhandled the whole entire process that led to the defeat of his chosen candidate?
I think he messed up big time. I think in the first
place, which ways?
He shouldn't have played with the idea of seeking re-election for a third term. That was when he started making a mistake. And then the point at which he actually decided to suspend. You remember he decided to suspend or postpone the elections.
Yes, he postponed.
That was wrong too. I think he thought that he had more power than he actually had. And I think he underestimated the nature of the Senegalese people and the Senegalese institutions, and their determination to hold the presidency to account. You know, again, all that is part of the context of Senegal, which is largely absent from the Gambia. So,
I told you that these Senegalese situations may have effects in the Gambia. You said they are different, but there also seem to be similarities.
I said they are different. They may have an effect in the Gambia.
May have an effect.
The contexts are different. Yes.
The context is different, but they may have an effect.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's, you know, we are the same people. We're just next door. So anything that affects Senegal affects Gambia. We don't know, that might not necessarily be the case. The reverse might not necessarily be the case, because Gambia is much smaller than Senegal. Gambians are more into Senegal than Senegalese are more into Gambia. You know, so
let's move on to your second country of, well, I don't know, America. You're going to the elections in a couple of weeks time, 2 weeks, I think, the most. You live in America for a good part of 18 years or more.
yeah, about that.
About that. You see the dynamics change in the whole thing when President Joe Biden, whether he was forced to accept that he cannot run or he chose it voluntarily, when he left or announced he will quit, then came Harris, his vice president, with Trump. At the moment, the polls are saying in some key areas, what they call battlegrounds, I don't know how you people call them, battlegrounds.
Battleground states.
Yes, states. There seems to be a tie between the two parties. Who do you see holding the keys to the White House on November the 5th?
It's difficult to tell. It is difficult to tell. I wish and I hope that the American people have sense enough not to elect Donald Trump, because that would be a disaster for the United States. It would be a disaster for the entire country, the entire world.
Do you realize that you have gone against the wishes of millions and millions just now?
I absolutely realize that. Yes, I know. I'm also, you know, an individual, so I do have my opinions. So the thing is, I wish Kamala Harris would win, but you know, American society is such that I will not be surprised if Donald Trump wins, based on fear, based on hatred, based on racial bigotry, based on gender patriarchy. You know, they don't want to see a woman, not less, especially an African American woman, which Kamala Harris is, you know, being president of the United States. So a lot of people will not vote for Trump. They will vote against Kamala Harris.
Obama was.
And people are...
Obama was black. Was black at the time.
Obama was
still
a
black.
man.
But he made it.
He was a man.
Okay.
The gender dimension is
dimension.
extremely important.
Oh, okay.
America is a very sexist, very patriarchal society. I lived there a lot. And a lot of people are supporting Trump, not because he is right, in spite of all the lies that he tells all the time, with all due respect to him and his followers, in spite of all the confused statements he makes, in spite of the fact that, you know, he's as dumb can come. You know, people still vote for him, not because they like him, but because they hate his opponent. So I will not be surprised if he wins. And if he wins, that could spell disaster for the United States and for the world. Because the guy is unhinged. There is no doubt about it. I think Donald Trump is a madman. You know? So
Dr. Galleh Jallow, one thing before we leave, you now made a habit of each morning releasing a word of wisdom on your Facebook.
Not a word of
and,
wisdom.
and when I read them, I say, look at these Baribunga proverbs. Why do you think you should inspire people with one thing or the other? Why do you think words of wisdom are important?
Well, I don't see them as words of wisdom.
What was your last one? I'm trying to remember. You said some things. I've always mastered them. I don't know how I forgot before coming to the program. Your last one was what?
Well, you tell me.
I've gone through a lot of them and discussed them. I can't remember. My phone is not. But I've always found them inspiring, and sometimes I say, well, is Dr. garawalling people, or is he a story he wants to tell, but he wants to tell it? You seem to be speaking in parables, in riddles. Why didn't you come out straight and say, this is what I said? Yeah.
Well, you know, as you know, in Africa, you know, proverbs are important. Like Yonna Islamic said, proverbs are the palm wine with which words are eaten.
Absolutely.
You know, that is still true in Africa. And these are all either they are impressions that I get from just watching things or reading or encountering or just sitting and thinking and something comes to mind. I think what I'm trying to do with those codes is to alert. There are notifications and alerts. If we have social media and AI sending us notifications and alerts, I think human-to-human alerts and notifications are also important to alert people to the dangers of thinking in certain ways or acting in certain ways. You know, they are meant to be wake-up calls, if you like, and attention callers to certain aspects of life that might not be immediately obvious to anyone. So you send out a statement, for example, to say that you can only hide if you can hide from yourself. That's one of the
good.
That's one of the ones that I recently had.
Wow.
You can only hide if you can hide from yourself. So
maybe somebody watching us want to come on air, but we cannot listen.
Well,
But Dr. Galleh Jallow, I know today people will say Jam has met his match. You know.
No, I'm not
but look,
match.
I like cross-fertilization of ideas, and I must say I treasure your participation in the brunch today very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for all those insightful thoughts you shared with our viewers, and I'm sure they are right now commenting that people like you should be the ones that should frequent this place. And
well,
I have
more better than me.
I promise that I will get you more frequently than I do, because it's been a year or so since I last saw you. So I won't wait for that long now.
So.
Doctor, thank you very much for being on the brunch. This has been on the brunch this week. I'm Lavin Cham. I'll be back with more brunch next week. Goodbye for now.
Islamic microfinance is becoming an increasingly popular mechanism for poverty alleviation, especially for developing countries around the world. This microfinance service adheres to the principles of Islam as a form of social responsibility. Yonna Islamic Microfinance is the Islamic microfinance of choice in the Gambia, trustworthy and reliable. At Yonna Islamic Microfinance, we provide savings products, current accounts, financing products in conformity with Islam. In addition, Yonna Islamic Microfinance also offers local and international remittances, takaful fund, management of zakat, management of awqaf, trading and investment, and building of strategic partnerships to bring financial services to the doorstep of the poor with donor projects, madrasas, youth organizations, women groups, and farmer organizations. Make a choice with Yonna Islamic Microfinance today. For more information on Yonna Islamic Microfinance, call 377-2151 or 9832-151, or visit Yonna head office at Tipa Garage, Bakote, or visit any Yonna branch located countrywide near you.
Planning to have an uninterrupted electricity and water supply from solar energy in the Gambia and beyond? Worry no more, because Solar Enterprise will provide you with the solutions at reasonable cost. We have experienced personnels who can install and advise you about your electricity and water supply with a warranty period. We have good quality solar products from North America and Europe. We provide services and sell products to individuals, organizations, institutions, private offices, communities, and government. These products are solar panels, batteries, charge controllers, inverters, water pump, water heaters, freezers, submersible pumps, and general solar accessories. Visit our stores at 48 Karaba Avenue and Brusubi Highway, or you can call us on 7657 479 980 8483 340 9400 or 635-9906.
Jamano Money Transfer Bureau de Change, your go-to option when it comes to money transfer. With Jamano, you can send money from anywhere in the world to your family and loved ones in the Gambia and be sure the funds will be delivered to them within the shortest time possible. For your convenience, funds sent through Jamano Money Transfer can be picked from all the banks and multiple other financial institutions, including Ajib Bank, Trust Bank, GT Bank, Mega Bank, Basic Bank, Reliance Financial Services, and Approved Services. Visit our head office at Bruceby opposite AfricMed next to Trust Bank Limited or email us at info@jamanomt.com. You can as well call us on 310-3050 or 310-3051 or yet still 733-0688. Our opening hours are 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Sunday. Jamano Money Transfer, your most trusted money transfer service where customer satisfaction is paramount. When you think of a simple, fast, and reliable money transfer, think Jamano Money Transfer.
I get it. Albaka.
Mbaka important.
Yo, nga transfer la sto.
Ya transfer la sto.
Ha, code nyenje.
Okay.
What's
Nsila ID soto.
Sorry. I get it.
Bijan bro.
Albaka.
Mbaka.
Bara alla service o tariaka. Mbale ki janna nun kunu bara tariaka.
Jannom Yonna Forest de Bureau. Gambia tonkon na no mbali ya bere. Birin koyna fo kato.
Bari si kodo kino kato ni fo bolong blabe ko.
56 branches mola soto Gambia jang.
Ha?
Gambia kono anin Gambia bankala bankol. Nka kono kiya bere. Kodo sifa fo falindiro fo nyaadi lafta memmen na kodi to poto nin kodi maraw. Jannam number 1 di nyonta. Andum fana nata anoda enterprise sotale. Wolam nyindi ko domorol fana kol fana be firale de dadi ma nin domorol dil fana beteat. Gambia dawda yalo ma fa kendol sotale di.
Wo moyo diat.
Apelenta
ni wo ka ni lafta nyelen kendol e bina.
Yalo bu kanila ko la baraka ba.
Yalo ndel chosano lo.
Abaraka.